turn my microphone touch. Hello, welcome to another episode of UKversus. Since Tuesday, a lot of stuff has come out, so we're going live yet again. I am your host, Brett Younger Togoro Pendragon. I am joined by my lovely co-host, Richard Elder Togoro Plumber. And we are going to be going over the news, events, and trying to crack into all the stuff that's gone down this week. How have you been, Richard? How's locals?
Yeah, I'm all good. How everyone? Yeah, we've obviously had one major bit of news, right? And then it's starting to get into qualifier season. Obviously the Wish tournament stuff, that's all been finished now in terms of like the qualifiers for that. We got the Wish tournament itself coming up next weekend, which obviously you came down and qualified for, which was cool. Yeah, we both get to play in that next weekend. I'm not really sure what I'm going to play yet, but I'll work something out.
I've got my first draft of Elder Togoro ready to go. I expect to get bodied by every younger Togoro in the event. But
yeah,
I was speaking with Mr. Hardiman. He gets his shout out a bit earlier. And I just basically said, I did a year of try harding last year. This year, I'm going to play characters I vibe with, and I'm vibing with Elder Togoro. So I'm going to have some fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a new meta, right? No one really knows necessarily what it is. I mean, obviously, younger Togoro is just good on face, so there's going to be something there. But what his next build is, I don't think anyone necessarily knows right now. I tried out a few different ones on Death. Tried out Fury, doing like waylays and stuff, which was cute and fun, but not necessarily great. I tried going maybe all in on Echoes, so going all into playing dual needle lunges and winged Nomus and all that stuff. Again, it was sort of the cool and cute, but not necessarily great. And then playing just all the 4-diff highs that draw a card for potato damage was just better. Like just having all your attacks draw a card was pretty good. Your mop strikes and seizings and 45% powers and the other ultra rare that name escapes me. Is it the very one?
Battle
Aura. Yeah.
Battle
and then
Aura
just
an insanely strong card.
Yeah, and just playing like the value stuff like trace eyes and things, and I think it's sort of a list that's sort of been out and about and everyone sort of knows about. So the other alternative is I just play Jin and play Flash Jin for the YOLOs. I think at the moment,
Flash Jin is something you're very, very proud. You've done very well with in building, and it will definitely catch a lot of people off guard. And
I don't know. I don't think so. Actually, I think other people have obviously looked at that and had the same sort of opinion. So I don't think it's necessarily like a unique idea to me. So we'll see. But yeah, just need to try and get some more testing in during the week. And then hopefully get to have a card with my face on at the end, but we'll see. But yeah, I guess that's the first part of the news, right? They sort of released a few more details about that tournament. I believe
so. There's over 250 people qualified according to UVS, which is absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone who has been qualified under UVS, so we don't even know if we're qualified. We should be because we won events, but you know how UVS are with stuff like that. There could be a lot of things behind the scene that mean we don't, but who knows? But there should be 250 people added to an event on Tuesday. We then have till, I think, Saturday morning, Friday evening to fill out the Google form with our decks and all the information.
Yeah.
And then the remaining people will then be playing in the Wish tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I don't think 250 people are going to turn up. I don't even think 150 people are going to turn up.
I don't know, actually. So pricing wise, right? Obviously, it's effectively only top 4, I think, that get pricing, which is fair. It's a free event. Like, you're not paying any entries, so there doesn't need to be pricing for everyone. like a nice little celebratory promo might be nice, but it's whatever. Again, they don't have to provide pricing for a free tournament. So yeah, top 4 get serialized special chromes, and then the winner gets to put their face on a card. The winner gets a wish, of which I think 90% of people will take their face on a card. And the top prize is big enough that I think people will want to try and shoot for that. And try and take it out of Jose's hands.
I get that, but the main reason I say we won't get that many people turning up is if you go on to UGN and you look up how many events in America and the UK are having their store qualifiers on Saturday. There's a lot. There are a lot of stores that decide to do a qualifier on the day. And then, as Let's Talk UVS David Toombs pointed out, the webcam RLE is the weekend after, and not everybody has the option to go, I'll do both. If you work, if you've got other commitments, you can't just go, yeah, I can do both. Sometimes you've got to be like, I've got to prioritize, and the webcam RLE gets me qualified. It gets me to the HLC. It gets me competitive points, which gets me further towards the HLC. That needs to be my priority.
Yeah, that's totally fair. And also, the sun, if you make it to top cuts, that is Mother's Day, right? I mean, I think it's only necessary here in the UK. I think the US have different Mothers and Father's Days.
Yeah, they do.
But yeah, it's Mother's Day in the UK, so there might be a reason. People might have plans on that day. They can't make top cuts, so they're not going to bother. So yeah, we'll see how many people turn up. I would expect at least triple figures. How far into that triple figures we get, who knows? But yeah, it'd be good to see a good turnout, and I presume they're going to be casting it.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be casting it. I assume it's going to be a 7-round event.
Yeah.
If we start at 4 p.m, we'll probably be done by about 2 a.m.
Yeah, which will be fine for the Saturday because I can sort of sleep in on the Sunday. I'm
planning to be done by 6. I'm playing Elder to Go. If I come across 2 younger to go, I'm out.
Yeah, maybe, especially if they're playing all the throws, because that's another angle. Obviously, you can take with Tuguro is you can play him on all. I think he's got all and play the throw package and stuff like that. So yeah, there's I think there's plenty of ideas. I think Hiei's pretty decent. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a few Hei's. I imagine there's going to be some Jins.
Hihei Hansen is a thing.
Yeah, I imagine there's going to be some people playing the Bowie Welcome to Spaceland thing.
Oh, yeah, that's why I've got Runaways in the sideboard. Just to be like, ha, screw you.
Yeah. Yeah, there's going to be some people doing that. There's people who love Kurama. They're going to play Kurama.
Oh,
I'd imagine there's going to be a reasonable mix of all those characters. I think Younger Toguro is probably going to be the highest one, if I were to guess. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what spice people can throw out there.
Younger Toguro is definitely going to be the highest one represented. There'll be a couple of people trying to do Chu because they always are. Jin is definitely going to be up there. Boo is definitely going to be up there. And I think there's going to be a decent representation. I think I'm probably going to be in the minority of the bracket because not too many people are going to want to bring a barely defensible 7-hander.
I mean, you say that you've got Spooky on face. That's a pretty good defensive ability, right? Yes, it's costly, but having Spooky on face is very good.
That's what I've kind of built it around. I've got a lot of speed reduction, and I've got I think of Younger to Go lets me build the top card of my deck face down. He wants to force me into deadlock. I'm going to pick a character which has deadlock outs on face.
Yeah, that's fair.
Before we get into the other big news, we got I just noticed something at the bottom of this. So we've got the new season promos coming for March, which these are an absolute win. We had the Fallen Angel, we had the Heroic Passion, and now we have...
I've got a couple of Heroic Passions. They're cool. And then obviously Mike and Shambles at the Command Pigeon Flock.
The new alt at Command Pigeon Flocks, they look absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I think these are an excellent way of doing sort of the participation promos for locals.
Yeah, I've just noticed we've got Bandai Namco at the bottom of this as a spot, a partner. I haven't seen that before.
Is that because of Bebop, maybe?
No, because Bebop's under Crunchyroll.
Is it?
Yeah. It'll be an anime license because I've been watching like the first couple of episodes on Crunchyroll. Hey, Peyton. But yeah, these are really cool. This art is an absolute win. There was a few people left in shambles earlier this week by the fact that we have 2 more years of a set 1 card, which is hilarious. So for those that
it's a bit of a loophole.
So for those that don't know, on Wednesdays I've started streaming with my counterpart in Oceanic, Caleb. We've been doing the tag format, helping out Michael with his new format and playing some games. And I was playing Infinite Potential, and people were calling it retro deck. It's like, no, Infinite Potential's still legal because of the extra credit promos. And since that, I have been bombarding Lenoco with promo cards going, is this legal? Is this legal? Is this legal? Because you've got the Gen Con Merciless Rush. Not the Gen Con, the Origins Merciless Rush, which has got a 2022 stamp on it. It's like, and Lenoco's like, no, it has to be a set symbol. Promos don't count. So we get 2 extra years of Infinite Potential, 1 extra year of League Interview.
Yeah, I guess those ones because they specifically printed them with like the set 3 symbol, right?
Set 4, yeah.
Set 4 symbol.
Yeah, so they've got the set 4 symbol on them, and they've even been updated in UVS to have the new art for Infinite Potential in there, so you can just put them into TTS as well, which is really cool. But I like to see loopholes. I like to see UVS going, yeah, we messed up. We said it has to have the set symbol. It has a different set symbol. It's still legal, rather than going, no, it is still banned, and like try and double down that aspect. But I really like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of, a bit of a mea culpa in that instance. It's like, yeah, we said it's set symbol. This has got the set symbol. It is what it is. It's only a couple of cards. They're not like, meta-defining cards. It's fine. No one really cares. That's exactly. Sort of the end of it, right?
And speaking of going, yeah, we made a mistake, but we're going to hold our hands up and change it. We got a brand new organized play article.
Yeah, and just to start off, my comments on the article. Well played. Like, it was much more than I was expecting, and really good job. I think I know there were some people who called out the toning of a part of it. I think that was just, you're reading into it too much, to be honest. I think it said what it needed to say. I think it's exactly what they should have put out, the sort of thing, when they released the rules. Like, obviously, I talked about it when the updates originally came out, because obviously they came out, we were doing a pod on the Sunday, and we said, hey, we've seen this stuff come out, not a fan, but there's probably going to be an associated article to explain everything, so we'll give it till, the next time we cast. Said article never came, and they just sort of info dumped it, and obviously then, all the outcry, and I think it would have gone a long way with those original changes to have an article like this that explained what it is they're trying to do, why they're doing it, and all that stuff, and should have had both ready to go at the same time. I think that was a bit of a boo-boo on their part, just from a communication perspective. But this is a really good piece of communication. Like, it lays out their aims, their goals, what they were trying to do, what their intents were, and saying, hey, maybe this isn't ready. Maybe we haven't thought it necessarily through. We're going to go back to the drawing board a bit on this, and we'll come back to you. But this is what we're trying to achieve, right? And I think that's really good. I think, there's the paragraph in there that says, hey, obviously we're seeing all these stuff 2 years in advance, and you don't get to see it. And maybe that's why you're not seeing some of these decisions, which some people read as like, it's the I'm sorry you're offended kind of thing. Whereas I read that as sort of, actually, yeah, guys, we kind of got lost in the reeds, and we were just, too tunnel visioned, internally, and didn't necessarily think about, outside of that sort of, ivory tower kind of aspect of we're seeing things in a very narrow way, and didn't necessarily give the thought to the wider applications here. which maybe that is a lesson they'll hopefully learn from. I don't know how many people he reached out to, but I know Jelly has reached out to a number of people to get their opinions.
Yeah, I mean, we made it very clear, and I did like my big plea about it, and
yeah,
like I said, we expected an article. I was very public in Discord and on the stream, basically saying, wait for them to tell us why they made a decision rather than just immediately jumping on them. And like I said, it never came, but they did listen to us, and that is a huge thing. It took a couple of weeks. They had their internal discussions, and they made changes that were for the betterment of the community. I'm just glad that people get to play the game. I didn't care about any of the other changes about that one. The changing back to 1 hour has been pointed out to me that it kind of shows that the 50 minutes was designed to accommodate drafting into events.
Probably, yeah.
But I think you could have kept 50 minutes and nobody would have cared.
I think you would have seen a real uptick in the draws. And like I said at the time, I think it's fine as long as you have the judges and slow play calling in play at the same time, because I think it's an issue that needs to be resolved.
Yeah, the main we've had some feedback from judges from all over about the comments on that, and it's a case of it's not on the judges to call out that stuff. Unless it's like top cuts where there's a judge specifically sat at the table watching them, it's very hard for them to police.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I don't expect them to be go look at every table and say you're slow playing, but it's so when you're just effectively in Swiss, you don't have a judge at your table. It is incumbent upon the players to have that conversation with your opponent to say, "Hey, can you speed up your rate of play, please, a bit?"
Yeah.
And if they're not, then you call the judge.
Yeah.
Top cuts, when you have especially on stream matches, when you have a judge at the table, they should be, they should be empowered to say, you need to make a play. You're taking too long. You need to improve your pace of play here.
Yeah.
Yes, it's untimed. That doesn't mean you get to slow play. Again, a drum I've bashed a long time, but I think it's part and parcel of that. Reducing that round timer is codifying slow play and stalling and making sure those are better sort of wrapped up in a bow in terms of the rules and stuff.
What do you think of the new top cut off point?
I think it's fine. It's a little harsher, sure. Like you have to try harder to get those top cuts. That's fine. If you want to win, do well. I'm okay with them being a little bit more sort of competitive from that perspective. Harder to make their top cuts. You all playing a 128 person event. You got 7 rounds, and you're going to make a top cut of 8. Yeah, you probably 1 loss at most. Maybe even a loss doesn't get you there. That's fine. You just need to play out, but you get to play your 7 rounds. Like I'm okay with it being competitive and tough and hard to make those top cuts. You should just have those chances, right? For example, someone playing those 7 rounds who maybe loses round 1 and then goes on a 6-round tear, goes 6-1, has a shot at top 8, right? Exactly. With that top 32 cut, there was no chance. And I'm okay with them, just saying, hey, we were trying to get these events done on time. We're trying to make sure that we're not going over time at our venues, incurring extra costs, stuff like that. Like it's fine, and that's part of what they've laid out, right? It's totally reasonable. I mean, part of it may have been just because people don't like intentional draws and they're trying to get rid of those. People just need to get over it. They're a part of tournament infrastructure, like they're part of the environment. They happen. It is what it is. But yeah, and like they've laid it out, so it's saying we're cutting at 7 rounds on day 1. If you have additional rounds of Swiss, they'll be played on day 2. So yeah, like I say, Jelly did reach out to players. I don't know how many of the community reached out to and said and just wanted some feedback. I gave him a fairly comprehensive feedback. I like to waffle, and part of what I said was I get the cut to 7 rounds on day one and just having the rest day two, totally reasonable. I think if you do start getting into those really upper tiers, I think you should give yourself wiggle room to try and be fitted an extra round or two of Swiss on day one, or else you might find day two gets overwhelmed. But overall, I was really positive on what their changes were and the reasons behind it. Draft isn't going away, right?
No.
Obviously, that's a takeaway from this article.
Is the end of the article, basically saying this.
Yeah,
the kind of structure that they've got rid of. This isn't the death of mixed format. This is just kicking dirt around the grave of regular Swiss. They've made it very clear that limited and draft is going to be a huge part of Worlds 2024.
Totally fine. Again, top level format. They can do what the heck they want with.
That's always been the case for Worlds. We might even see it come back for Nats, if I'm honest.
Maybe I think Nats will be too. I think they're just too big events to be doing draft at. Given again, I think there's walls to draft that UVS games need to get over, right? I think if draft is something that is embraced by the community, is popular, works well, and something people actively seek out to do, then I think that is a big boon for the game. I think it's a big positive for the game. But there are walls that need to be climbed before draft is in that state. And some of those walls may be insurmountable. For example, the fact that 6 packs cost 30 quid. Like, that's a really big wall to get over to make it a regular part of the scene, your game scene. I think there's how drafts are run in this game in terms of like the logistics of judging and timings and character selection, all that stuff. And part of what I said to Jelly was I think you should go back to the drawing board and play with stuff, play with ideas. Don't be beholden to draft norms from other games. I think you should explore other things and test them out and see if they work, and it be a UKversus draft, not just Magic draft using UKversus packs. Like, why is it 8 players? Why can't it be 6? Right? What about doing a 3-pack sealed and then you draft the last 3 packs? Right? So you've got 3 characters and 3 packs worth of knowing what you've got to build with to give you a nymph going to draft, hopefully speed the process up. Might not work, but it's an idea I think worth testing. And I think they should look at ways of greasing the wheels of draft and making it better, making it more UKversus, and just looking at all of these things, and don't just sort of take stuff for granted in terms of this is just how drafts work, this is what we're going to do. Just go back to the drawing board. What can we do?
Now that say they keep the 11 card pack going from now on, you could drop it to a 30 card sealed rather than 40 and just do 4 packs. You walk away 44.
Yeah, and again, that's their ideas. Like, do you do 4 packs and make it 30 card decks? What does that look like? Is that workable? Do you get enough characters? Can you get workable decks by doing that? What about 5 packs? What about maybe increasing to 14 card packs or 12 card packs or stuff like this? Yeah. I think these are all ideas that they should look at and do their due diligence on.
I think the other thing they need to do is bring back the face downs. So if you in your sealed pool and your draft pool, I think in the old head days, you could play a card face down in your deck, and it was just counted as a 2-cost blank foundation with a +3 mid block.
Yeah, it was a 2/5/3 mid, wasn't it?
Yeah, 2/5/3 mid. So if you did that, you could cut the amount of packs you needed because you're guaranteeing that you're going to have enough foundations.
Yeah, and or maybe almost like draft blanks. So you've got some very basic attacks and very basic foundations that you can like where you make a Magic draft, you then go to your land station and get your basic lands. So you've maybe got some maybe you're making a 40 card deck. Let's say you need 14 attacks, right? Maybe you only draft 12 and you need a couple of basic attacks, and they're just very bland, very mid, very whatever. Again, I don't know what any of these ideas are. They workable? Do they work? Do they make it better? But I think these are ideas worth testing with to make this a product and a proposition that people actively seek out. There are people that do currently, but I think that is a very much in the minority.
It's definitely something that's going on, and I imagine we're going to see more upsets to organised play throughout the year.
Yeah.
Especially as we get close to Nats, because there's so much on the line now. My biggest issue with it, as I said, was the mixed format and the fact people were going to be traveling hours to play a few rounds, and it wasn't very appealing to new players. You put that into a Nats or a Worlds format, it's fine. The thing, you had to qualify. It's a lot harder to qualify for Nats than it is for RLE. You just have to attend 2 locals, and you're in RLE. You actually have to win a star qualifier to get into Nats. So putting that little bit of extra pressure on the player makes more sense that your event's going to be a little more cutthroat. And RLE, as we've discussed in the past, should be more like a GP, not a Pro Tour.
Yeah, and hopefully they'll take all these learnings away and they'll go back to the drawing board and think about how can we do this. And and I think they tried putting it out there. It obviously backfired in terms of like the community as a whole said no.
Yeah.
There were some people who were for it. There were some people who were sort of indifferent. It's like, I'll play whatever, I don't mind. But I think there were enough people that said this just puts me off. I think both in terms of the mixed format and that day one cut, right? I think the ways forward are, I think getting rid of that day one cut, I don't think that should come back. I think people should just play day one as much as they want. I think mixed formats, I don't think you should do that at this level of event. I think you can do limited events at this level, totally fine. But I think they should be in their own separate thing. Because it's like, there's going to be people that hate limited, right? And it doesn't matter how good you make it, how much you improve things, how well you do. There's always going to be people that says, I don't want to draft, I don't want to do it, right? And that's fine. That's totally their call. And that's why I think at this level of play, you can't exclude those people entirely, or else you're going to lose. And the number of people are not insignificant, right? And the moment you say you are excluded from playing the stuff that's these big events in your country, you're cutting them out of that level of play entirely, and then all of a sudden they start dropping out the game. Whereas if you do it as a seasons 1 and 3 are constructed, season 2 is our limited season. That person that says I hate drafting and say, cool, I'll play in season 1, I'll play season 2. I'll just skip the RLE for season. So I play season 3, I'll skip the RLE for season 2. I'm still engaged, I'm still invested. You don't lose those players. They just say, okay, that's one of those events I don't need to play, and I can skip that one and make sure I definitely go to 1 and 3.
Yeah, especially now they're moving away from mechanically unique promos in these events. You don't feel like you're required to go to every single event squad.
Well, they never were at this level, right? RLE's never got mechanically uniques.
No, but I'm on like the provisional promos and like the provisional showdowns. For people that want all that, it's fine. But I mean, as EU players, we know ourselves. We spent the first year of the game not having access to all the mechanically unique promos that were coming out in these big events because we didn't have the events.
Yeah, and I think they've gone away from all the mechanical elites, and that's great. It's just these really nice alt arts people can chase, and that's what you want from this stuff. I want to go and get my shiny, my bling. I don't want to feel like I'm required to do it just because otherwise I don't have these cards. Yeah, it's like, okay, I can live without my shiny tongue whips or whatever. Doesn't matter. Like, I've got my tongue whips. I don't need my shiny versions, but I'd like them.
But so biggest takeaways from the OP changes are limited premier events are coming. We can't stop that. They've been testing for a while now, and UVS are operating a couple of years ahead. They just kind of jumped the gun, but so that's a bit of foreboding ominousness. But it's a huge W, and I know some people in the community are like, is it a W for them to just take back a decision they made? Yes, it is. It could,
there is always a time to say, actually, this isn't working. We need to just say no, and just doubling down. I think would have been very dangerous.
Yeah.
Like I say, my expectation from this article was for them to say, we're going to leave season 1 as it is. We're going to remove the guarantees, like they're saying, we're not going to say the entire year is like this. It might be, but we're going to give ourselves the out to change seasons 2 and 3. But we want to test our idea on season 1. That was my expectation. But the fact they went further than that and says actually there's too much negative feedback to this, and sure, a lot of it is like maybe a small amount of loud voices, but I think that's enough loud voices. And I think the sort of anecdotal evidence of people speaking to their locals, like for example, like obviously I'm on Discord, I'm on the Discord and I talk to people, but like all my locals, they don't give a shit about Discord. I mean, Gary does, he's like trolling on Discord, whatever, because that's who he is. But like most of my locals don't bother with that stuff, and every single one of them just didn't want it. They weren't interested in engaging with it. Whereas previously they were quite up for the idea of maybe traveling up to like, you know, your Sheffield, what have you, and having an RLE and seeing everyone having fun. But like this just completely killed their interest. And I suspect that was a sentiment that went quite a lot. And not only was it the loud voices on Discord, but I think all of the unheard voices being heard through other channels that said, yeah, they don't want to do this. And
There'll also be people with big communities like Tam, like David, who will have gone forward and been like, yeah, my community and my team absolutely hate this. David was saying during the week that he has his team of 15 plus people, and the majority of people just turn around and like, yeah, I don't want to go to event. I don't want to go to these events anymore. It's like, that's a huge blow, especially when you're going through stuff like that. But like you said, it would be very easy for UVS to go, deal with it, we're doubling down, this is how it's going to go for this season, we'll think about it for the future. It is a very brave and a show of strength by the company to turn around and go, we've heard what you've said, we understand why you've said this, and we are going to make the change. We're not saying that we're wrong, but we are saying that you're right.
Yeah, and that's it. It's the case of because there is a level to which their ideas were sound, right? And I can understand the reasoning behind them. Yeah. So, like the top 32 cut, if you are looking at it from a top perspective, and you aren't thinking maybe about like the repercussions of it, you think about, okay, the last 3 rounds of the day, realistically, it's only the top 32 people that can make top 8. So we can happily cut everyone because they don't have a shot anyway, right? So that's a reasonable cut to do. It's a reasonable sort of logic of, okay, at that point, no, that top 32, anyone under there probably weren't making a cut. We can cut those top 32 and carry on and do everything we need to, and it makes sense. And those other people, they can play in our side events that they're obviously targeting, and you know, it's very easy. I'd imagine very easy to get blinkered and blinded to actually there are people who just are quite happy to go 0-7 and play out the day. And I think fundamentally, whether you know it's an optics and feels thing in terms of saying you don't get to play all of day one, it doesn't really necessarily matter whether you can make the cut or not. Being told you're going to an event, you don't get to play all of day one unless you do really well, I think is just not going to sit well with people. And I think that was a thing that was missed. It was a case of, you know, not everyone is going to these events just to say, I want to win. Everyone goes and wants to win, right?
Yeah.
But there's a lot more that goes along with it. And I think it's very easy when you're looking at it from a numbers and logistical perspective, just sort of miss those things. I think that's what happened.
So when you were describing that, it sort of clicked to my head as to what this was. It was a building that was designed perfectly that didn't account for the weight of the people. And it collapsed. Yeah. Because it's like, oh, we've got this structure, it's going to make the game more competitive, it's going to make it a lot more cutthroat, it's going to make events more streamlined, they're going to make it more efficient, it's going to be great for the game. And they didn't take into account that people travel hours for this game. They didn't take into account people sometimes just want to play this game for fun. They didn't take into account that we have younger members of the community that already have enough pressures in their life that don't need to have the pressures of coming into a game and being like, oh yeah, if I lose one game, then my entire weekend's ruined, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's a very easy thing to do, especially when you're talking about the people that make and run this game and are making decisions for this game, they're all very invested, right? They're all very invested in the game. A lot of them are ex-players. They've played the game for a long time. They're embedded, right? And they would be able to look at it in terms of they would have their own, very kind of maybe blinkered view on things because they played this game for ages. And I don't necessarily know, who makes these decisions, but it'd be very easy for someone who's played this game for 10 years as an investor who's going to play no matter what to say, okay, yeah, sure. Like the top 32, they're the ones that were actually going to make it. We can make that cut and it's fine. Whereas actually, a lot of the player base have only been playing, say, since My Hero, right? A lot of these players, this is a very interesting time, a very dangerous time for the game, because it's not only are we going to new IPs, and it's going to be tricky to maybe sell a bunch of people on that, right? There's people that are going to there's going to be people that come back because they like the new IPs and weren't interested in My Hero. There's going to be people that drop out because they don't care about anything other than My Hero. So again, it's very dangerous in that perspective. And there's also so many more new CCGs coming out the market, and there's only so many mouths to feed. So you can't do anything that is going to lose you players in that way, right? You need to draw them in, give them reasons to attend. Don't give people outs. Don't give them excuses to say, actually, I don't want to do this anymore, right? It would be very easy for someone to look at those changes to say, I'm not a big fan of draft. The top 32 cut feels really harsh. Well, that's me out of organized play, and I can just stop playing the game. And I can go play Star Wars, or I can go play Altered, or whatever the other ones are. Like the other ones coming out, or Lorcana. Like their organized play is starting to kick in. Or I can maybe go back to Pokemon. Like there's so many of these CCGs in the market. I think you don't want to put any sort of blockers in the way of people. Give you reasons to say I'm out. Right, the moment you do that, that's just sort of a death knell for the game. I know Tim Keefe, he put a big a long-ish sort of multi-tweet essay on this sort of a subject of actually, it's a turbulent time for the game, and they really can't take too many huge risks, because before it was like, it was a smaller game, and it was never, it had a very dedicated fan base, and it was never really going to fail. But actually, I think this is a time where they make too many bad decisions and the game could fail, right?
Yeah, that's just it. And
yeah, I mean, I don't know if you're in the I hate IDs kind of team, Apple. So what Apple was saying in chat is my big props actually that's my big props to the mixed format, was it could have prevented so many IDs based on pods. However, the top 32 cut off was already a big issue. IDs are a thing. They just happen. I think people get over them.
The main problem is Apple, you don't prevent IDs, you just move them. Rather than people IDing in round 7, they're just going to ID in round 3 or 4. And basically, if you're cut off before the top 32 is round 4, if you are 3-0, you go to your opponent and go, we tie. Why? Because that guarantees us into the top cut.
Yeah, again, people just need to get over IDs. Nothing you do is going to stop it happening, unless you literally make it illegal in the rules, unless you codify it in the rules, say you cannot intentionally draw, in which case, I don't know how, there are always ways of two players of effectively intentionally drawing a game through.
Yeah, you can literally just sit there and play one pass for 60 minutes and it'll be fine.
Yeah, like it's again, I just think it's part of the landscape. People need to get over it. It happens. If you don't like IDs, then be in a position where you get to make the decision and choose not to intentional draw. Like that's fine. That's your prerogative.
There are people.
If you're in that position, then just don't do it.
Yeah, there are people that don't want to do it. At the first HLC, both Nathan DeWalt and myself were like 4-1, and I offered him the tie, going, we're already going to be in the top bracket of day 2. Do you want to take the time? And he's like, no, I want to try and get higher into the top bracket.
And that was a completely reasonable decision because there wasn't a huge amount to lose, but enough to win that it was worth it, right? And like I say, there are people that hate doing IDs, and that's okay. But if you're in a position where you can happily take an intentional draw, you've earned that position, and it's just part of a tournament environment.
It can also come down to a series of factors, such as round 7 of Nats last year when it was Mike Hardiman versus Liam Chona, and they're like, it's a mirror match, but we can ID and go to the middle of the table, or one of us can win and go higher. And Liam walked away with it, and then ended up walking away with the entire event, which kind of...
It's just one of those things. I think people just need to get over IDs.
IDs exist. It's part of the maths of getting into Top Cut. With it being top 8 now, IDs get a lot harder, but they're also going to be a lot more the people who are like 6 and 0 are going to want to ID more.
Yeah.
Because there's also going to be a lot of people that go 6 and 1 that are going to then miss out on the bubble. What's Apple saying?
You sound just like the company we say, don't be in a position to effective ID. Interesting ID issue with the top 30 cut. No, I understood what they were trying to do with the top 32. I just think my issue with it is saying you don't get to play all of day one, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily the cutthroat nature of it that was my issue. It was the fact that people want to just play day one, and I think that's a big feels bad and a big kind of blocker to that.
I went around
that event for people. I think IDs are just part of the tournament landscape when it comes to sort of CCGs, right? They always have been, and I know some people don't like them. I'm sort of fairly indifferent. They are what they are. Right? I think if you're in a position to ID and you can, and it benefits you, then you do it. And I think if you're not something you agree with or want to do, then you don't do it. When you're in that position, I just think it is what it is, and I don't think you necessarily need to wrangle stuff or sort of try and bend the infrastructure of your tournament to eliminate them, because I think that just makes the event fundamentally worse. I think they're just part of what it is, and I think it just it makes things overcomplicated. Like, one way you can do it is by just hiding standings, right? That sort of tends to stop IDing to an extent.
I mean, it wouldn't if you're undefeated. It wouldn't stop the IDing, but I get what Apple's saying, and we know people like Corin who absolutely hate IDing. The main issue is mixed format doesn't eliminate IDing; it just moves it much earlier into the event, which makes it feel a lot worse. And then if the top 2 people of your draft pod get to advance to top 8, then when you have 2 people who are 2 and 0, they're just going to ID, and they're going to go,
I don't think the mixed format did anything to IDs. If anything, it probably, like I say, it probably made it worse. And you probably would have had people that wanted to ID to make that top 32 cut.
Yeah, if we had a pod and Richard and I both went undefeated into round 3, and then we had yourself and, let's say, Nathan Squire on our heels on a 1-on-1, then we're not going. Me and Richard are going to look at each other and go, if one of us loses here, there's a chance that one of the 1-on-1s can knock us out of Top Cut. But if we ID here, then we get to go up. The only time you wouldn't want to do that is when you had a player behind you who was 1-0-1. But if chances are, if we're players 1-0-1, then you're facing against a player that's 1-0-1 as well.
Yeah. I mean, so yeah, the pods, obviously how they would have made up those pods, no one necessarily really knows. Like, would pod 1 have been 1-8, pod 2 have been, 9-16 or whatever? Or would it have been like, because you've got, 4 pods? Would it have been like, 1, 5, and 9? I don't know. We don't know how they would have been made up. It would have been mad. It sort of would have been mad to be like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So like,
it would be. I imagine it'd be kind of randomized.
I think it would have just been pod, but like whether pod 1 should have been players 1 to 8, or whether pod 1 should have been, like, say, like Apple says, 1, 5, 9, 13, 17 and stuff. So it's kind of split. Because
so
if you're...
you'd have 1 and 32 together, 2 and 31.
No, you'd do it so that, like, say, if you got 1, 2, 3, 4 as a pods,
yeah,
like you got 4 pods, then you have like first seed in pod 1, second seed in pod 2,
yeah,
third seed in pod 4.
Then you'd put 32 in the pod with the first player. You put 31 in the pod with the second player. You put 30
well,
in the pod
again, that's like if you're snaking it, don't know. Because if you have like 1 to 8 in the first pod, then in theory you're giving a big advantage to whoever's, if you're in pod play, you're giving a big advantage to whoever's like in pods 2 and 2 and 3.
What I'm saying
because whoever
is,
goes there can quite...
the way Apple's put it here is you would have 1, 5, 9, 13, 17, 21, 25, 29, and 32 all in the same pod.
No, you'd have up to 29, right? And then 32 would be in pod 4.
32 in pod 4. Yeah, so you'd have 1 to 29, so then you have 4, 4, 8, 12, up to 32, all in the same pod all. So you're essentially you even out a little bit more, but
it would have been weird, right? And how that ends up affecting your overall Swifts.
Yeah.
And I don't know I haven't really thought through the maths and what the best, the sort of fairest way of doing that would be. Either way, it's a moot point. It's a moot point, but
yeah,
it's a moot point.
It's a moot point. Now over and done with. We've spent quite a while on this. The one thing I would want to talk about before we move on to the next thing that came out of the week is the coupons.
Yeah. Again, another really big win.
Really, really cool. Yeah, offering people who take part in day one some vouchers for free or heavily discounted side events. Massive win. It'll give them massive amount of data to help with limited and draft play for the future seasons, and I think it's a great way to get more people into it.
Yeah. Again, like, side events are something I definitely need to improve on. Part of my feedback I sent to Jelly was to say if it makes sense from a, I guess, financial standpoint, these vouchers should sort of incentivize being spent on drafts in some way. So they should be almost more valuable to be spent on drafts. If you genuinely want people drafting and trying it out and testing it, then these vouchers, which are free and is like just an extra for attendees to say, hey, maybe here's a voucher, it's £5 off a constructed event, but actually it's going to be £10 off a draft event. Something along those lines, like, and just say, yeah, you can spend them on what you want, but you get more if you spend them on a draft, just to incentivize people to try draft. And people like maybe look at it and haven't done it before and think, I don't know about it, I don't necessarily like it, I don't want to try it, and saying, actually, look, here's like some extra money towards it, give it a go. And these vouchers incentivize you to try it. I think that would be a good thing, because it's effectively a freebie. It's not like they're forcing people to draft as part of the event, but they're saying, hey, here's a good reason to do so.
So the other part that came out this week was we got the Critical Role reveals, and we got introduced to the first PvE event we've had from UVS, where we're taking on the big bad of Critical Role. If you that isn't a dragon, that is the married couple, the Brywoods. I have already asked, so because there's a little rule down here that says if a player's card or effect would make an opponent have a decision or take an action, it goes in your favor. That doesn't count effects that require your opponent to have a board state. So, like, if you're like, say if your opponent has X or more foundations, like the to-go attacks, you don't get to use those effects, which makes me very sad. which means you can't also just knife edge deathmatch your opponent them to death.
Right. Okay. So they don't count as having. So, for example, 45% power. They don't have the foundations.
They don't count as having foundation. They don't have any foundations, so you don't get to. Because I was talking about, like, you can
so
infer.
they're never in deadlock.
Yeah, they're never in deadlock. They're never. You can't infer from rules like that. But if you've got a card,
gigantic explosion.
What?
Gigantic explosion.
Gigantic explosion. They don't have momentum, so. But things like Shigaraki 3.
No. Yeah, I meant gigantic explosion. That's the one where you spend the momentum. You blow up 2 foundations. They blow up 2 foundations. Isn't that the one?
Yeah, but so nothing gets blown up, so the effect doesn't do anything. Because they can't make it. If it would force them to make a choice, you get to make the choice. So you just get to blow up what you want.
Right.
But they've got
you spend a foundation to blow up 2.
But they've got you just blow up 2 of your own foundations for extra additional damage. But things like Shigaraki 3, you just always get to draw a card.
Oh, so their checks always fail.
So basically, you choose the most favourable outcome.
Okay, so I play Vile Seizing. Please check into 7. They automatically fail.
They can't make a check, so they automatically fail because that's the most favourable outcome for you. So you get to draw a card and get 2 damage. Okay. Blue Flame Torment, same thing again. You just get 2 damage and 2 to your next check. But then you've got things like Double Jab Pummel where they can't physically block, so you can't trigger it. Because it's asking them to have a game state, not take an action.
Yeah.
So, because I asked them, like, can I just knife edge deathmatch them, like, turn 1, and go, the effect says they need to have something, they don't have it, favourable outcome says I win the game. Like, no, you can't do that. It's like, oh, that seems bad. But no, there's going to be some great ways to break situations with stuff like that. There's a lot of dabby free cards that are going to really enjoy that kind of outset. But then there's also going to be lots of ones like No Remorse that basically says, yeah, you don't get to draw a card. But yeah, the idea is you take down the Brightwoods. If you take them down, you get a specialized full art card to commemorate it. Whenever you so the rules seem really, really cool, but also very, very weird. So they get 20. They get 25 health for every player taking them on. Their speed of their attacks is a 6. And your attacks have to have more damage than their toughness. If they have more toughness than your damage, you only deal half damage. If whenever a player fails a check, they get to respond with a roll.
Yeah.
And each player may take 1 enhance during the other player's turns. So if me and you were taking on the Brightwoods, we have to differentiate. So we can't have the same person start every single turn, but we choose one person. Then that person starts off, and they take essentially their turn. And during that turn, you can chuck in 1 enhance throughout that turn. And then it'll go to your turn, it'll go down from there, and then when we end, the Brightwoods get to take their action, which affects all players. It affects all players that have either played a card or passed during the combat phase. This affects all players. Once every player's played a card or passed during the combat phase, they get to roll a 6-sided dice, and they got some dumb abilities on here. But the biggest thing is, if you fail a check, they get to roll a dice, and if they get a 5 or a 6, they send a 4 speed for 7 damage attack every time you fail an attack. Every time you fail a check.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like a lot of fun. Like Apple says, it's just like a cool, fun thing you can do or not do, right? it'd be great to see them expand this, and I'd love to see, like, I don't know, maybe at Worlds or something, is like there's a Paul and Rohan that you go up against.
Oh, they've already got that. They must have
boss.
character cards by now.
Probably,
When,
or or like a Lenoco as a big bad.
they have that.
Discord.
They do that already through gunslinging.
Yeah, they've got their gunslinging kind of characters where you 1v1, but I'd love to see it taken to this and have like staff versions of this. I think that'd be really, really cool.
Still kill everybody with his character.
Yeah.
But yeah,
exactly. I wouldn't be surprised if, like, that when the Godzilla things come out, we get like a Ghidorah or maybe a Kong, right? Because there's a Kong versus Godzilla film coming out, right?
Yeah, but it's Warner Brothers licensing versus the Japanese licensing.
I wasn't talking about licensing. I was talking about what might be fun.
I know, but I do like this, but it reminds me of the MTG Game Day stuff where you take on the Hydra or the Minotaur or Xenagos.
Yeah, it's not something you do all the time, but I think as like, odd events, as like a little cool thing you do in a store when something releases, totally fine, totally fun. Not everyone's going to enjoy it, not everyone's going to have fun with it, but it's just like a small little extra thing.
And when we get the Attack on Titan stuff, we can have the Colossal Titan coming in and be like, we could have like big AoE attacks. It'd be really, really cool. And I think I would love to, hopefully, like, I'm going to try and get down to your store, but March is such a compact thing of events. I don't know if I'm going to get down, but I'd also love to see like a TTS version of this come out.
Yeah, just like I think it's just a cool thing to have in the game, right?
Oh, 100%. This is a really, really cool thing that they've added. I think it's a great way to celebrate the release. I think you could have done this for UUH as well and just like had a special Elder Toguro sort of thing.
Yeah, or like it could have been like a Toguro Brothers version of this, right? As you said, like the Briarwood, the Toguro Brothers, or like something along those lines. Or I don't know enough about.
Yeah, I think this would be really cool. World. And much as like Nick Reagan loves to do the design your own character sort of game, I think design your own cards to win XRs. I think designing your own PvE would also be a really cool competition to see what the community can come up with.
Design your own boss.
Yeah. Create a boss battle for the game. Like, if this had been in the work previously, we could have had an All for One. We could have a Gigantamax one. Gigantamax here coming in the future sets.
The ultimate boss fight, Washy Wash.
He's just going to take you to the cleaners.
Look, damn it! I sort of teed you up for that one.
You did.
Oh,
it was perfect.
I wasn't even deliberate.
No, it's not scripted. That was just it was good, clean pun.
Yeah, get out. So yeah, I think it's a good thing. I think it'll be fun. I think it's certainly something I'll be. Hopefully, we can try out at our locals. But yeah, really cool.
Yeah, and then we got all the cards revealed for Critical Role.
Yeah, I haven't really looked through them. I know there's been some rumblings about blah blah blah. These are boring and starter deck cards. I mean, like not all of them are going to be ultra rare quality. Let's be real here, guys.
As I think Tim Keefe pointed out, they never said that these were competitive. They just said they were designed at veteran players.
Yeah, like they were never going to be like, again, they're not going to be chock full of bangers, right? That's just was never going to be the case. And I think if that's what you're expecting, then your expectations are unrealistic. I'm sure there are good cards in here and very playable cards, but like, it's not going to be a case of the whole deck was going to be, there's going to be some sort of fillery stuff in here. It's just is what it is. like my expectations were never anything different. Like, I still think these are priced too expensively for what they are, but it is what it is.
I mean, I do
again,
get that.
hopefully there's plenty of hype for it. I know, obviously, I think some of this was on one of the Critical Role channels themselves, right? Like the Gamer or something. I can't remember.
I think there's something like that. The alt art cards look absolute fire. This is the first set where they've had creative license to use their own art as well. It's not screenshots. It's not adapted. It's not like no effect. This is in no way criticism of UVS or any creative decision made by the company, but you can find the character card arts as PNG on Google and just add your own backgrounds to them, and you could make this. One of our emotes is literally a Chaco 4 art, which I found as a PNG on Google, which is kind of hilarious to me. And again, this is not a criticism of the company in any way.
Yeah, like Apple said, I think the Challenger decks are a great idea, a great way of bringing in other universes in. I just think the price point is a little bit too high for what they are. Like, but yeah, just sort of is what it is. But yeah, they were never going to be, 60 ultra rare quality cards. And I think if you had expectations of that, then you had unrealistic expectations.
I can understand where some people are coming from when you look at the cards. Like, there's one, I think, in Mighty Nen, which is just a blank attack, and it's like, cool.
Yeah, that's one of the common attacks in the deck.
It's a Ryuku support, but it's like, should you really have Ryuku support in a critical role deck? And
yes, because that's the game now, right? The idea is that everything mixes and matches. So the idea that they maybe want to have this kind of critical role deck, but they plant like a card that works in Ryukyu, a card that works in Genkai, a card that works in Godzilla. That's how the game works, right? And I think that's a pretty reasonable thing to do.
Yeah. So, like, we've seen keywords come up that are going to be very set specific, and one of the ones I pointed out this weekend was villain. Villain, because someone was saying it's not a moral alignment keyword; it's their job, and I was like, no, Tomura, aka Shigaraki, is not a villain. He's part of the League of Villains. So he has both, though. He has League of Villains and villain. Why doesn't Elder Torogo have villain? I can understand younger Torogo not having villain because of how his story arc is.
Maybe, I don't know.
But Elder Torogo is, by definition, one of the biggest villains of the show, and should have the villain keyword. He is.
Yeah, some of this might be a balance thing, right? They didn't want to have, Elder Toguro have access to villain enhance on things.
Yeah. So for me,
totally reasonable.
Yeah, you got like the Team Yorameshi, Team Yoko Gokai, the spell keyword, and the fact that you've got like the combo card that says it needs spell, and I'm looking at Attack on Titan going, this is science fantasy. I'm looking at Godzilla and My Hero going, none of these have got magic in them. The spell keyword to me seems really, really cool, but
it's going to be hard to have it in anything else.
Having a combo card that specifically says spell goes, cool, you can only play this card with very specific guidelines.
Yeah, and not everything is going to be playable in anything else outside of these decks, right? And that's fine. And who knows? We might have a Critical Role booster set next year, right? Or maybe just more Critical Role Challenger decks, and you can mix and match the two. Who knows where they're going to go with it? Maybe they want to bring in... trying to think of some random magic-based thing. I don't know. Some other thing that has magic in. Harry Potter set next year, right? Not going to happen.
If they brought in a Harry Potter set, I'm sorry, but that's it. I'm out. No way in hell. I'm sticking around.
I know it's not going to happen, but like, it's just the first magic-y thing I could think of, right? But let's just say set one next year was Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden you've got two. There's now more spells matters.
But that's what I'm saying.
We don't know what they've got planned in the future.
I'm really interested to see if these keywords get to come back. Like if they brought in a tiger and bunny set, if they brought in like Apple said, a Power Ranger set, you get the heroes and villains tags back. You get because they're heroes.
I'm sure there's some random anime where that spells would make sense in, right?
So if they brought in Fairy Tail from the new collaboration with Kodasha, they brought in Fairy Tail, they get the spells back, and you could have really cool interactions with things like Natsu, who would basically would have a really specific ability of cannot be damaged by fire spells, by fire attacks, by spells with a fire resource.
Yeah, there's possibilities with this stuff, right? And I think that's part of what to think of, and like to an extent, they don't necessarily need to be feeding all these cards don't need to feed into other strategies, right? Some of them can be just they work in this deck and they don't really work outside of it, and that's fine. And some of these cards, like the blank card that says this works in here, you can also play this in Mewtwo, and it's fine. Not all of these cards are going to be tournament staples. That's fine. Not all these cards are particularly exciting. That's fine. They're 35 quid. It's not fine.
Yeah, that's my issue is having a £35 product that is specifically geared towards veterans and more experienced players, and going, this card has no abilities, to me goes, but it also doesn't work with the rest of my deck. So where is this? What kind of veteran player is going to take this kind of deck and put a blank card into it that has no synergy with my deck? If this was a Clash deck or a starter deck, fine, perfect. But going for a veteran player, this card does nothing with my deck. It has no abilities. It does not progress the core purpose of my deck any further. Why is it here? Running Air Force Blast in Elder Toguro, in Younger Toguro, makes perfect sense. It is a fast attack with low damage that gets lots of damage. That to me, perfect. It's a blank card that does something with the character. From what I can see here, this card does not further this deck's core any further, and no competitive player, no veteran player would run it as a free of in a deck.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, hopefully these things are a success, right? Obviously there was much hype about the whole Critical Role thing. I still don't necessarily give two monkeys about Critical Role. Haven't watched any of it. Probably never gonna. I genuinely hope they're a success, and I hope it brings in a lot of players as interest. I hope it gets a decent amount of coverage on the channel, on the Critical Role channel. I hope they talk about it. Hopefully we get that sort of cross marketing. I think if we do, it's a big win for UVS.
There's definitely a gameplay video coming. We were spoiled that at the HLC. We were told Matt Mercer and Liam are going to be playing the game, and Matt's very big into the game.
And again, that'll be huge, right? He's a name that's well known within those circles. So if he comes out and says this game's great, I love these decks, go and get them. There's going to be plenty of simps that do, right? That haven't necessarily tried UVS before and want to go out and do it.
Oh, exactly. I mean,
so fingers crossed, it's great for the game.
Exactly. But yeah, Matt Mercer has such a cult following. He's like a cult leader of geeks. If he embraces something, he endorses something, if he's in something, people will flock to it, which is really, really cool. And I think it's really, really great. He's going to be in multiple. Him as a voice actor is going to be in multiple sets this year. I'm really excited to see where this game's going with these multiple IPs. I got to play Yu Yu Hakusho on Tuesday before the stream, which is why the stream started a bit late. And as you were saying before, the fact we've moved away from MHA has brought older players back in. The head judge of the UK, Michael Murray, is playing again, and he kicked my butt on Tuesday. with his Botan, which was playing all older cards.
Yeah.
To be fair, I wasn't really focusing because I was setting up the stream at the same time. But the position I was in, he kills me either way. It was really, really cool to see.
Still maintain she's bad.
Hmm?
I still maintain she's not good, but I might be wrong.
Oh no. She's kit specific.
Yeah.
That's her biggest issue. Is she's very kit specific, but what she's trying to do is very, very good. And for locals play, yeah, it's one of the things that I'm not a big fan of taking super sweaty meta decks to locals play because I don't find them fun. The only time I've done that, like the webcam events, is leading up to like Nats or RLE, where it's like,
yeah, that's how I treat it, right? Is if I'm like, okay, I've got this tournament, I need to test before, I need to practice decks, I'm gonna take Sweatmaster 9000. But like, generally I just take some nonsense that I think is fun.
Oh yeah,
most of involving a one check.
On Tuesday I was playing Kurama Falling Skies, but I only had 2 copies of Falling Skies because my friend Andrew's got my other 2 copies. And I was playing all highs, so I was playing against Adam, and he beats me around game 1. Game 2, we get Sean coming and go. This is times on the round. It's like, cool, I got to kill his turn, and Adam is in deadlock, and I go, oh cool, and I've got the new attack that I've got the quick response down that has deadlock, changes attack zone, and give it +1 speed. So let's go, like. Rosewhip Barrage, make it a low. Agile Drop, make it a low. He's got all these high blocks because all I've been doing is throwing highs. Like, Falling Skies, give it a throw, make it a low. He's like, yeah, no, that's game. He's getting to do dumb stuff like that. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, I tested like my younger Tagora against Hawks, and that was interesting. That was very much like a dance, right? Sort of playing that dance round the once per game, or once per turn of. And very much that'll be quite similar against the Elder Tagoro of, okay, am I going to press the damage button or are you going to press your button first?
Yeah. If you've got the block in hand, it's a bit easier with Elder Tagoro because you're just like, cool, if it's a low. So if you come up with like a 6-3 and a high, and I've got like a 1 high in hand, it's like, I'll blow up Foundation and switch it now because it makes it easier to block.
Yeah. But yeah, I need to get some more testing in this week, try and work out what my deck I'm going to play.
I've been more focused on the webcam RLE, as a few people saw on Thursday. I've been testing out Toga. I've been speaking to Chris Smith about it well because he is the preacher talking the good word of Toga free weapons at the minute, and I'm hooked.
Yeah. I think the weapon keyword got a lot, right? And that was always the issue with Togas in the past, was weapon keyword be bad, and the weapon keyword was pretty weak before UU. The weapon keyword got a big glow up in UU.
Cage of Hell just goes so hard.
And I think Toga 3 was actually totally fine. I think she was definitely underappreciated and underestimated on initial release. But I think she's better than advertised.
The biggest.
I think.
I'll let you finish.
Yeah, I think she's better than advertised. And like, what's her symbols?
Death, chaos, and
evil, probably.
No,
life.
Not evil. Life. Yeah.
Yeah, and like the death symbol got a big glow up from UU.
I mean, the biggest issues pre-rotation was it can't be fixed being in the format, and that just shutting down Toga's response. And the fact that you had Momo and Jiro that just did everything she wanted to do but better.
Yeah.
And now they're gone, and you're getting things like Cage of Hell coming in that basically goes, cool, you can play an attack, play Cage of Hell, and then give Toga's stats to your next attack. I think at some point we need to do a new overall tier list as well for like all the characters, because we haven't even done a tier list that's got like the Cowboy Bebop characters in them.
Yeah, and obviously, we don't have to do set 1-1s anymore. That takes a lot out of the equation.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe that's the thing we can do sort of, next time we look at a podcast. Probably not next Sunday because, me and you will be playing Top Cuts. That's fine.
I mean, even if we're not, it's Mother's Day, so I don't think we'll be doing one. And Top
Yeah,
Cuts will
and
still
obviously
be playing.
people will be watching the main stream, right?
Yeah.
Or playing, so I think next Sunday is probably not a good time to be doing it.
I don't know. I don't
Tuesday.
know. A week on Tuesday we might do. It depends on what's going on with the webcam work studies and with Robin, because I have asked Sean if we can do a special like League of Villains webcam work studies on the 12th, because the 12th is my birthday.
Okay. I mean, I will try and make sure I can play in that one then.
I get to be the nice baby age of 35.
Yes, you are a baby.
Yeah, I honestly, Richard, I thought you were younger than me, and when I was doing the nicknames, I originally had you as younger. I went onto your like Facebook profile trying to find your age. You didn't make it easy. You don't have your birthday or anything listed on there.
No, I'm definitely older than you.
But I have figured out you're 42 this year.
I am 42 this year. Yes. I'm an old man.
Through some super sleuthing, I figured out how old you are. Yes.
How do you manage that one? I don't know.
Yeah. There's nothing secret on the internet.
That is fair.
You're both ancient. Screw you, Apple.
Yeah.
So it isn't UVS related, but there is one thing I do want to highlight that I would like that people should go check out. The Netflix Avatar: Last Airbender series. I know it's come under some serious fire recently for its CGI and its changes to the story, but I'm really enjoying it. I don't know if you're an Avatar: Last Airbender fan, Richard.
I don't watch TV.
Fair enough. No, it's really, really cool. There's one thing that I picked that I immediately noticed that nobody's talked about, which is really, really cool to me. Is that so? During the Nickelodeon cartoon series, there's the story of the two lovers, and it's about a man and woman that were separated by a mountain, and their families were at war. So they used earthbending to make tunnels in the mountain to be able to see each other. And in the Netflix adaptation, they changed one pronoun from he to she, and didn't change. Didn't like how some shows will just overly exaggerate that they've got LGBTQ representation and stuff like that. Just naturally put it in there of the fact that it was two women that were in a relationship that were being separated from each other, and did not highlight it. Did not just put it in there as like, oh yeah, they were gay and they wanted to be.
Well, yeah, it's like the recent thing with Nick Offerman, right? When obviously I think he got an Emmy for The Last of Us.
Yeah,
like the episode he did, and then he was just like calling people out. I was saying like, no, it's not a gay story, you asshole. It's a love story.
Yes,
that's it. It's like you don't need to call it out or point out or like, look, we're doing gay things. It's a love story. Like,
it's one of the biggest things. Yeah, it's one of the things that I love to see, and my partner loves to see it. And when I talk about it,
it should be normal, right?
Yeah,
it shouldn't be something of note. It should just be part of stuff you watch.
You shouldn't have to advertise that you're being inclusive. It should just be normalized that it is a thing. Same with race, religion, everything. It shouldn't be, oh, look at how inclusive we are. It's a case of, yes, these people exist. These religions exist. These sexualities and genders exist. It is a part of our world, and we don't need to glorify it because it is a natural, normalized state.
Yeah, I mean, on the subject of cool things we watched, I took the mother-in-law on a date this afternoon to go see Dune Part 2.
Oh yeah,
because the missus isn't a fan of that stuff, but the mother-in-law's a big fan of like sci-fi and whatever, and so we both went and saw Part 1 together, and then I took her out to the cinema to see Part 2 today. It was banging. I love Dune as a universe anyway.
We don't get the specialized
part over here, if it was in the game. And yeah, Part 2 was great. like they have some minor quibbles with it, but like they're only minor. But it was a really, really enjoyable film. And I would recommend going to see it.
Did you get the specialized popcorn bucket? Is that Americanized?
No. I just got rinsed. Like, how is it £15 for a fucking cinema ticket? Just a shitty local cinema, honestly.
I got so there's a new local group been set up, which is really cool. That lets us know when they're in our area. That lets us know when there's autism-friendly stuff going on. And I got a message like 10 o'clock last night going, 11 a.m. tomorrow, Cineworld are having a autism-friendly screening of Migration. So me and Flynn went down there. It only cost us like 13 quid to go to. It was $13.98 for us both to go watch this new screening, which was really cool. But then the snacks cost us almost 20.
Yeah, like I only got one large thing of popcorn, and that was like 6 quid, and then like the 2 tickets were 30 quid. Ooh. It was insane. But yeah, Phil, if you're obviously make sure you've seen the first one before you go. I think that's also very, very much well worth watching. But yeah, I really enjoyed the film, and yeah, I would definitely. I would wail over a June in this game. Probably.
I mean, I think the next movies I'm going to see will be anime movies like Haiku, The Battle of the Trash Heap, and the new Demon Slayer.
And I am looking forward to the Borderlands one as well. I did enjoy that game.
It's taken some flack, but I think it looks really, really cool. But then again, I've only played Tales of the Borderland, the Telltale game. I haven't played any of them.
Okay. I played the first 2. I really enjoyed them. And as long as it's just silly fun, I don't care. Like, it doesn't need to be earth-shattering. Just needs to be some silly fun.
Yeah, there's too many films that are trying to be too serious and too up their own, but Borderlands is just one of those things that it's just complete and utter wackiness. And if I don't know if I say guys, I've only played the Tales of Borderlands, but Handsome Jack just to me seems like it needs to be cast perfectly in order for it to be pulled off.
And they got to get Butt Stallion right.
Oh yeah, they got to get Butt Stallion. Mm-hmm. That'll just be CGI though, so it'll be fine.
Yeah, that is true. But yeah, rather than waffling on about films the rest of the evening, I think that probably about wraps it up for today for us. I don't think there's any news to consider.
Yeah, no.
So thanks everyone for watching along, and thanks everyone on YouTube for watching. Obviously, do all the algorithms, like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff really helps. And obviously, good luck for those playing in the Wish tournament, unless you're playing Wii, in which case, may your blade chip and shatter. And good luck for those playing in their local tournament.